Good. Don't touch that dial. I got more to come. This is a new project. It's called Bodacious. It's got a 93 Ford F-250 frame with a Cummins diesel in it. And it's going to have a 61 GMC cab mounted on a 93 Ford F-250 frame. And it's going to be able to haul a CJ5 on the back of it. A Jeep. That's right. I'm building a project. It's called Bodacious. It's going to be awesome. So stick around. Don't change that channel. Here we go. We're going to pull this engine out of this thing today so I can strip this frame down and get it painted and then start building it from the ground up. This is what needs to happen so I can go forward and finish the cab, build the bed, put the engine back in it, put the fenders back on it, get this thing on the road. It's been down for a long time. I need to get it going. I need a truck. I've had 3.9 Cummins engine out of this 93 Ford frame. It's got a 61 GMC chassis going on it. Project's called Bodacious because it's going to be totally awesome. Right now we're going to drain the water out of it and start pulling the engine out of this thing so I can strip the frame down and start getting it ready to paint. So here we go. Let me move you in a little closer. Start seeing what we're doing. I made a drain tube up to drain the water out. Here we go. I've got almost all of the pieces made up for this that I need to, but I need to strip the frame down. There's still some more stuff that I need to make for it. And I need to do some more cab work to it. We're going to drain the water out of this. Start stripping this down. Oh, by the way, this way I've got this set up, the radiator and the block holds 5 gallons of antifreeze. And the aftercooler, I believe, holds 2.5 gallons of antifreeze because I've got those separated. I live out here in the desert and it runs 120 degrees in the shade through June, July, August. I'm building this thing to tow and to haul a Jeep on the back of it. I've got 6 Jeeps, so and I'm building them for my grandkids because I like to build things. And as you can see, I'll give you a little walk around here. As you can see, I've got a T19 transmission. I've got all the gearing. When I pull this apart, I put all this in here to mock it up. I got a Atlas 2 transfer case in here, and I've got all the exhaust already mocked up, but I've got the motor mounts set up in here. I've got the steering linkage mocked up in here. Here's the aftercooler pump, and that's separated from the engine block. It's going to have its own cooling. It's got an electric fan in here and a shroud that I made up. Made this out of some pieces off of some restaurant equipment. So I've had a commercial heating and air conditioning license because I'm been doing a heating and air conditioning for over 45 years. I still got my contractor's license. I made this ram. It's all stainless. Comes off the turbo. I turned the exhaust around. Let me get this off here so I can move this around a little easier. Bear with me. I made the cold air intake so I can suck the air right off the front here, so I won't be drawing any air out of the engine compartment. This thing's going to get 2 turbos on it. I've got a O-ring in the block. I bought this remanufactured engine, and I noticed when I was running seal leaks, so I'm going to tear it down, take a good look at it, put a different turbo on it, because the turbo that came with it hung down here, and the cab fits right up here, so I had to modify the back of the cab to make it work. But I've got the downpipe and everything, which is laying right there. But I'm going to rebuild the front end and the rear end in it, put lockers on the front end and the rear end. But I turned the aftercooler around, so because when I put this up here to make it, made the horn and everything, made it come around, back around this way, hook up. Made the return tube come down and go back in this way. Everything seemed to work really good. I ran this thing for about 2 hours idling, see what the water temperature would get up to idling. It got up to about 130, and then I turned the fan on and it dropped it down to 100 degrees, and that was with the aftercooler hooked up to the engine water temperature. Then I separated them, and the aftercooler temperature gauge never got up to 100. Didn't even register. But I've got the AC setting up there different. So, but I've made all the shroud stuff and got it set up in there. Now I'm getting ready to tear this all down, tear it all apart. I made the cab mount brackets. That's the front, here's the back. There's the battery box. The cab stops right here, actually right there. And then the bed on it's going to be a flatbed, but it's going to be different than any other flatbed. It's going to be so I can drive the Jeep up on here. It's going to have a winch back here so I can winch the Jeep up. It's going to have a 3-inch lift kit on it. It's going to have 35s on it, 18 35s on it. 18-inch rims, 35-inch tires. Going to have 15,000-pound winch on the back and a 15,000-pound winch on the front. Build me a different bumper, kind of aerodynamic. 134 AC on it. The motor mounts, I made a little different type of a motor mount on it. Then I used the motor mount off the 460 on the side of it to stabilize it. It's got like a transmission mount in the front. And then it's got the 460 on the side to stabilize it. And then a transmission mount back here. This thing does not rock. Sits there and it idles pretty good, and then when you throttle it up, it doesn't rock. But we'll see what it does under a load. It's got the cutout on it because it's going to have a stack. I want to get the exhaust temperature. Government, prior to that, I worked for a chemical company designing cooling equipment for their processing. And I love when somebody says it can't be done, and then you turn around and prove to them that it can be done just by manipulating some equipment in a different way that they're not accustomed to. And just because they happen to say that it can't be done and you prove to them that it can, is not always so, because it doesn't look like it can on paper, but you prove to them that it can. It's kind of fun. I have been called arrogant, which is okay with me, but that's just the way things are. That's going to be pretty awesome. This is the cab. It's a 61 GMC. It's getting surface rust. It's got a lot of work to do. I've had to rebuild the grip rail on this thing because when I got it, when I pulled the Bondo off, I found out there was more Bondo than sheet metal. When I replaced the cap, I insulated it. See, it doesn't sound tinny. That sounds tinny, so I insulated it when I replaced it. And I'm going to insulate all of this down here. This thing was crushed down 3/8 of an inch. I had to push it back up. I've got work to do on the drip rails. You can see that right there. I've got a lot of work to do on the drip rails, straighten it out. I've got to do some work on the inside of the firewall here. I'm not really happy with that right there. When I got it, they took a big punch and knocked holes to it for running an old air conditioning system in here. I've had to cut this out because this is filled full of pine needles and rusted out. So I'm putting air conditioning in it, so I've put one of the vents in already. I've got 3 more vents to put in it. You can see right there where I bumped the firewall back this way. Got some more work to do on it. I've painted the inside of it with that rust inhibitor. You can see right up here where I've got insulation in it. See how tinny that sounds? When I get through with it, you won't be able to hear that. It's going to be insulated, keep it cooler. I live in a desert where it gets up to 120 in the shade. June, July, and August. And this thing's going to run pretty cool. I've got the doors are done. They're in another shed, out of the weather, out of the way. What it is. But I've got not a whole lot of work to do to this. I've done a lot of work. I've replaced the rocker panels in this. And a lot of people would have walked away from it, but it was a challenge. And I don't walk away from a challenge. A challenge is a lot like a marriage. You either try to figure it out, work with it, because things do get better if you work with it. If you run away with it, they don't. No matter where you go, you're going to have the same old problems, so you just work with it. And I've decided to work with it. So, you know, there we are for that right now. I'm going to finish draining the liquids out of this, and then we'll be back with this. Yeah. You know, sometimes life is like a box of chocolate. And if you leave it out in the sun, you know what that will happen. That will all turn into something else. I get this thing downloaded and edited and get it on there. So if you like, subscribe, ring the bell, because there's going to be a lot more coming. So thank you very much. I'll see you again. Just remember, if women don't find you handsome, they at least better find you handy. If not, find another guy. There's plenty of us out there. Stay tuned.